Hello guys, and welcome back to Coding Orbit, and welcome to the new playlist of Firebase. In this Firebase playlist, we're gonna learn all about Firebase features such as authentication, Firestore, storage, sending cloud messaging such as notifications, and also how to use functions, all of that in a simple app. And we're gonna learn that as we move on in the playlist, building this app. So now let's see the final version of the app that we will be building throughout the playlist. First, we have the sign up screen, which has email and password and name. So let's enter an email, but I don't know what's wrong with my emulator. It only writes backward now. So let's type any email. Okay, and let's enter a password. I'm just gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now let's enter a name. Let's say Mark, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Now let's hit sign up and see what happens. All right, so the email is already in use. So let's enter another email, see what happens. All right, sign up, and here we have them. Here we have all the other devices that already signed up. Now, if we click on send notification, we can send a normal notification with any title and body. I hope this is for this one. Probably it's not. Okay, so maybe this is for Jeff. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Let's click send notification, and you can see that we received a notification here. And you can see that in the other emulator, we already have Mark here. So we can send a notification, and we can send a notification with an image. And now we are uploading the image to the Firebase storage in order to send it to the notification. Hopefully this device will receive it. Alright, and this device does receive the notification, but after some time, the first time, it takes a while. Now, if we minimize the app and send the same notification, we shall receive it with an image. I don't know why, but if we are inside the app, it doesn't appear. Maybe that's for Android. I'm not sure. Anyway, so here we can send a notification with a title and body and an image with the notification. So that was the final version of the demo app, and now let's get started. Alright, now let's create a new Flutter project and let's save it anywhere. Okay, now let's call it Firebase tutorial. And let's wait till VS Code creates it. Okay, now the second thing we want to do, we want to go to the Firebase, and we have to go to add a new project, and let's name it Firebase tutorial. And I think we can't have an underscore, so let's just Firebase tutorial. Let's continue with it and continue again, select the country, account, create project, and let's wait a little bit till this project created. Alright, the project is created. Let's click continue and wait. Alright, now from here we can add Flutter app. So according to the documentation, we need to install the Firebase CLI, which you need to do. Let me close these tabs. Alright, if you are a Mac OS, you can click here. If you're Windows, you can click here. Anyway, you have to download the Firebase tools, and then you already have Flutter SDK. So they're telling us we have to create a new Flutter project, which we created. So after you do these two, just click next. And here you have to copy this command and run it inside here. Let me just have a new terminal and paste it here. And it's downloading some of things. All right, now let's go back here and let's copy this one and paste it here. Okay, you can see that I haven't exported my path for FlutterFire. So let me just paste that first. Then let me run this command. FlutterFire configure project. And let's just wait a little bit till... Okay, here it's asking which platform we should support. I'm only going for Android for this tutorial, but we can also support iOS. So let's click enter. And it's fetching all the data for Android and iOS. Okay, now it's asking for our permission to update the Android build Gradle and for the app. So let's just hit enter for yes, and that's it. Now that's what we have to do for configuring Firebase. Now let's go back to Safari and click continue, and we have to copy these two and go back here, and in the main just paste that here, and maybe take these and have them here, and let's have async. Now I don't know why, but once we do the Firebase installation, it doesn't add Firebase core in the pubspec.yaml, so we can add it from here, add Firebase core, and you can see that it added Firebase option file, which we're not gonna be touching. Okay, now that's it. That's for setting Firebase up. All right, now our next step is to continue to console, and we have to go to build authentication, and we just need to enable authentication in order for us to implement it in our app. So I'm gonna use email and password, and no need for email link. Just click save, and that's it. Now it's enabled. Now let's go back to Visual Studio, and let me just minimize the terminal a little bit, and let me erase everything here along with this, and let's say Flutter Firebase demo, and let's call this home page, or for now sign up screen, maybe without title, without anything. Now before we start implementing the sign up screen, what I like to do, I want to create a services directory, and inside it I want to create a file called Firebase helper.dart. Now let's create a class here. Let's call it Firebase helper, and let's make it static, so we only access it by static methods. Okay, now what I need to do, and before I continue, I need to go to pub.dev, and I need Firebase authentication, maybe. Okay, Firebase authentication, is it this one? I don't think so. I think it's just Firebase Auth, and that's it. Okay, now let's go to the installing, and let's copy it. Let's go back to Visual Studio, and let's add it in under Firebase core, and let's save. Okay, now let's go back to the Firebase helper, and let's create static. It's a future, but let's wait a little bit. Let's call it save user, and it takes in email and password, so required string email and required string password, and it's async. Now inside here, or before here, I'm gonna say static final Firebase auth, and I'm gonna call it auth equal Firebase auth dot instance without for. Okay, now inside here we're gonna take the email and the password, and we're gonna try to sign up the user with them. Okay, so basically what we are going to do, we're gonna say try and have a catch here, and let's say we're gonna return a bool. So in the catch, just return maybe false, and in the try, let's start implementing. So let's say final user credentials, and let's say credential equal to await auth dot create user with email and password, and we have the email and the password. So that's it. That's it for creating a new user in the Firebase auth, but we're not done yet. So here, inside here, after we wait, let's check on the credential. If credential dot user is not null, we're gonna return true. Otherwise, we can return false. And if we do that, we can't show the user a message as I showed previously when I used same email I used. So what we can do inside here, we can send context. We can say required build context, and we can say here scaffold messenger dot of context dot show snack bar, and here snack bar, and having title text e.toString, and that's it. Okay, now our service for the Firebase is ready. Now let's go back here and to the lib. Let's create screens directory, and inside it let's create sign up .dart. Alright, now inside sign up screen, what we can do, we can say st full, and let's call it sign up screen. Okay, now let me just remove these and import material instead. Okay, now inside the build context, I'm gonna return scaffold with an up bar. Let's say up bar, and inside the up bar I want title context, and let's say sign up with capital U. Okay, and center title to true. Now, okay, let me just enlarge the font size a little bit because I'm not sure if you are seeing well or not. Let's have it 16 maybe to 16. Okay, even the console. Okay, let me save it and come back here. I think that's better. Okay, now for the body, we're gonna have single child scroll view for smaller devices, and for the child we're gonna have padding const edge inset all for 20, and we're gonna have a child, and let's say column. Okay, now inside the column we need to have children. So the first children I want to have, let's say text, and let's type, for example, sign up using email and password. Okay, now let's wrap this with padding, and instead of the const here, let's have it here. Alright, now I think that's it, but instead of, let's have it symmetric, vertical, and let's say 20 again. Okay, now what we're gonna do, we need to have 3 text form fields or text fields, one for the email, one for the password, and one for the name. So before we do that, let me first create editing controllers. So final or late final text editing controller, let's call it email controller, and let me have 2 more of these, one for the password and one for the name. Okay, and in the init state, let's just initialize these is equal to text editing controller. Let me paste it again, password and name. Okay, now we're ready to implement the text field. So inside here, let's say text field, and for the text field we're gonna pass first controller. This has email controller, and on change, what we're gonna do, we're gonna say value, and inside here we're just gonna say email controller.text is equal to the value, and let's just decorate it a little bit. So decoration, let's have it const input decoration. Inside here, let's pass a hint text. Let's say or maybe for the hint example, at email.com, and let's also have a label or label text. Okay, inside the label, let's say enter your mail, and that's it. Just let's wrap it to the padding to appear a little bit better, and let's only have it only with 20 instead, and only bottom, sorry. And let's keep the constant, sorry. Let me just copy this first. Let's add a comma, and let's copy this twice. One for the password controller, and here let's say obscure text to true because it's a password, and let's say 8 stars. Okay, enter your password, and here for the name controller, and let's say name controller, and for the hint let's say Mark Smith. I don't know why, but I only think of Mark Smith in these cases, and let's say enter your mail. Okay, and finally what we only need to do now, we only have to implement a button to handle the click for these. So let's have elevated button, pressed, and const text sign up. Okay, now inside the onPressed, what we are going to do first, we need to validate this button. Let me just add commas here. Okay, we need to validate these buttons, so these texts. So we need to make sure that the email is not empty, the password is not empty. Maybe we can validate it to the password is at least 8 characters length, and the name is not empty. So let's do that, and let's create a function, and this function, let's say, and it's maybe bool, and let's say is valid form. It doesn't take anything, and inside it let's check if the form is valid. Okay, so first let's check if email controller.text is different from null. Okay, it's not null, so it's not empty, or is empty. Let's check if it is empty, or let me just copy it. Okay, let's have password controller and name controller. If these three are empty, or any one of these three are empty, let's just return false. Okay, now if they are not empty, let's just check on the password if it's at least 8 character length. So let's say if password controller dot text dot length less than 8, and let's here we need to show something, so let's have snack bar. Okay, so scaffold messenger dot of context dot show snack bar, and let's say snack bar. Okay, I wrote that wrong. Snack bar with text, it has to be const. Let's say password must be at least 8 characters length. Okay, let me just change this and have a const here and have a little bit of commas. Okay, and that's it. And then let's return false inside here, and let's send build context because we're gonna use the scaffold. And let me also copy this scaffold and paste it here. Let's say enter all fields or fill all fields. Okay, now if we pass these two conditions, we can return true and the form is valid. You may check on the email and if it's a valid email or not, or you can leave it to Firebase because Firebase does check on that. So let's just leave it for Firebase in this tutorial. Okay, so now on the unpressed, first thing we have to say final is valid, or maybe, sorry, without defining a field, let's say if different from is valid form, and let's send the context. If it's false, let's just return and do nothing. Otherwise, now we have to call the Firebase save user methods that we create from a while. So let's say Firebase service, helper, dot save user. Now we have to pass a context, which we passed email. We get it from email controller dot text, and password from password controller dot text. Okay. Now before we continue, let me add also bool is loading is equal to false. And the reason I added that, because once we click on the button, I want it to show a loader instead of the button. Then after it finish, if we have an error message, just return the button. Otherwise, we will navigate. But let me just say set state to is loading equal to true. And let me copy it. And whatever happens here, if it's this one, or maybe here, let's have it to false. And after here, let's have it to false. Okay, now instead of having elevated button like that, let's have is loading, otherwise elevated button. Let's have here const circular progress indicator. Okay, let me save it, and that's it. And let me just import this one. Okay, now before we continue, you might wonder why we have name controller if we are not sending it to the save user. And let me add it as well. Let's say name. Okay, now in here we have to pass the name also. So name controller dot name, dot text. But how are we gonna use the name? The name can't be saved in the auth, but can be saved in the Firebase Firestore. So after we finish authenticating the user, we will save all the data that we need inside the Firebase store. But we're not gonna do that right now. We're gonna do it in the next video. So let's now run the app, and or maybe just Control F5, and hopefully it will work. I haven't run it yet. Okay, we're having an error. Okay, let's shut down the app. Before we run Firebase.initialize app, we have to say widget binding, widgets binding dot instance. No, I'm not sure if it's widget binding. Okay, so it's actually widgets Flutter binding dot ensure initialized. Now let's run the app and let's close these. Okay, hopefully now it will work. And you know what? We haven't yet know if it will run or not. But let me just add something here. And we also have to check on this. Let's say final save is saved is equal to await. And let's have this as async. Okay, sorry, not the set state, the method itself. Okay, and it's saved. Let's say print is saved. And now let's rerun it. Okay, now if we click in here, immediately it will say fill all fields. And if I say A, it will say password must be at least 8 character length. So let me just create a password with 8 character length. Let's click sign up, and you can see that it's false. So let's see what happens, and you can see that Firebase auth invalid email, the email is badly formatted. Let's just click on it again to see it. Okay, the email address is badly formatted, so we have to write a normal email. So let's say ABC, and let's say let's say, I don't know, A or A, and let's have dot. Okay, let's try now and see what happens. Okay, you can see that it printed true, which means we have saved the user. So let's go back to the auth. Okay, let's see here, click on users, and you can see that we have added our first user. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.